Accident victims like you deserve better. A husband and wife were rear-ended, and insurance offered them $10,000. We litigated the case and got them $375,000. Qualified expert attorneys can get you more. Call Zirkin and Smerling today.
Good evening, Baltimore City. This is City Voters Live Podcast, and I'm your host, Desmond Stinney, back for episode 21 of the City Voters Live Podcast on this dreary Wednesday evening. Last couple of days of rain, been rain. But tonight we have a very special guest in studio tonight, Mr. Charles DeBarber of the Filbert Street Community Garden. And we're going to stay away from politics tonight and get into some more civic related topics. Charles, thank you for coming out and visiting with us here at City Voters Live Podcast. And take a minute to introduce yourself to all the members of Baltimore City Voters and beyond.
Well, I'm Charles. I'm the animal husbandry coordinator at Filbert Street Garden. I'm more or less a beekeeper that's taken on a lot of rescue animals. But I did want to say we'll bump into quite a bit of politics because the conflicts between my ducks and my chickens and like all the drama with those different animals, it's quite contentious.
I bet it could get somewhat political down there on the farm. And, hopefully their politics are a little more civil than their two-legged counterparts.
Chickens are ruthless, my friend. Chickens are ruthless. Oh, everybody's trying to be top chicken. Maybe they're not too different from us at all.
But maybe they've been watching us or we've been watching them too much. One of the other.
Be like a duck. They're laid back.
Right. I love them, and their eggs are better. But excellent. So can you just take us through a little bit about you and your background and then the garden and how you got involved in the garden?
That's a big question. I'm a talker, but let me try to put it in a nutshell. Once again, my name is Charles. My background is the military. I did about a decade in the Army as a cyber intelligence analyst.
Thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you for your kind words. And that's what brought me to Maryland. It brought me here back in 2010 after language school and after deployment. And I was just so fascinated and went to go work NSA in Fort Meade. And after I finished in late 2013, I just fell in love with the region and with Charm City and decided to stay because it really does meet the name Charm City. It reminds me of Cleveland when it was nice.
All right, you're going to have your folks in Cleveland all over back now.
I don't know, man. Like, remember, there's a lot of contention between your birds and our Browns.
I hear you.
At least we got to keep our team name, though. I feel empathetic because of the Colts being stolen from you guys.
Well, we're not complaining about the name Ravens, and they can keep the name Browns up there. So.
Oh, excellent. Like so long as I wasn't talking in Pittsburgh, because I couldn't go home after that.
Yeah, that's a difficult rivalry up there. But
indeed.
So now you're with the. Tell us about the Filbert Street Community Garden.
Well, I got involved with the Filbert Street Garden. It is located right in Curtis Bay, right next to the historic water tower. It is a 1-acre community garden where we produce hundreds of pounds of produce, 3,800 chicken eggs and duck eggs each year that go right to the curbside pantry for free. We provide more than 30 plots so people can come and grow because we're in the middle of a food desert. It's like a 45-minute walk to the closest grocery store there in Curtis Bay in Brooklyn. And unfortunately, just food access is a tremendous problem because people are dependent on these corner stores, which are like TV dinner quality food at about 25% of the markup because being poor is quite expensive, especially in Baltimore City. There's also other things being exacerbated by the bridge coming down, unfortunately, because a number of our people work at the Port of Baltimore. And I don't mean to try to say that we're more important than any other neighborhood in Baltimore, because you're all suffering. But with us being right next door, and I think about 15 to 20% of our folks in Curtis Bay and Brooklyn working in one way or the other for the Port of Baltimore. Furthermore, crossing that bridge used to sometimes be the most convenient way to get groceries over in Dundalk and Sparrows Point. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me speak Baltimore, Sparrows Point. And that now is gone.
Well, I mean, that's an interesting point, and you know, don't hesitate to mention that the impact of that tragedy with the bridge is far more far-reaching with the communities that are in direct vicinity, of that tragedy, and beyond the economic impact of impacting jobs and income. The transportation aspect of it, and like you said, the convenience of being able to get to and access already difficult situation when it comes to groceries. And we've heard many folks around the city talk about food deserts. I think my friend Doc Cheatham talks quite a bit about food deserts. For those who might be unaware, discuss food deserts, their impact on community, and more specifically, a little bit more detail about how Curtis Bay is impacted by that one particular issue.
Roger that, and it's a very Baltimore problem in general. But I can just speak for experience for us in Curtis Bay and Brooklyn. A food desert is a place where food at economical prices and of quality just isn't available. It's often called food apartheid because it disproportionately affects minority communities and people of color as well. Our only grocery stores, once again, are corner stores without fruit, without like quality dinners and supplies and stuff like that at a significant markup. And these areas have high rates of heart disease, according to Johns Hopkins studies. They have high rates of diabetes. People are more dependent on fast food as well. And it's dramatically affected nutrition in Baltimore City.
Right.
And we're not the only ones. There are kids with rickets in the greater Baybrook area, which is why those school breakfast programs are so damn important.
Right.
Because for some kids, it's their only vitamin C they're going to get.
Yeah.
Like, how are we in this day and age in Baltimore City having kids with rickets, with scurvy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like a pirate disease.
Right. Long since solved issues in the larger, scope of society. And nutrition is, I mean, what you eat, what you put in is what you're going to get out. So if you go into corner stores with high sugary foods, and you have imbalance in the nutrition, it's going to impact so many things. Your ability to recreate, your ability to learn and get quality education. It all starts. I think a lot of it starts with nutrition, and I think that's why it's so important for organizations like the community gardens to, I know that you're doing everything you can to help fill that void, but you can only do so much. So
that's true.
Yeah. So you said, was it 3,000 pounds of
3,800 chicken eggs, and we produce a few hundred pounds of produce. We'll produce more this year.
Mm-hmm.
We're dedicating more space to production. We're firing up our greenhouse.
Right.
Our wonderful master gardener, Brittany Coverdale, is started doing row beds, and we're going to be able to produce a heck of a lot more this year as well.
Right.
The curbside pantry started in 2020 when Curtis Bay was the only place you could get eggs in the region during COVID. And the economics on top of it are a third of our residents don't drive.
Right.
So how the hell are they even going to go get groceries? And if you're a significant walk from there or a bus, try bringing your weekly groceries via bus,
right?
Which is a very disconnected system as it is. It's not setting people up for success. We'll put it that way.
It really is. And you need to have that access. So yeah, trying to grocery shop, on a car, and some might even say on a bike, but that's a whole nother issue. it's really not the most convenient way for folks to get access to, the groceries and the sustenance that they need. And so the direct benefactors of the garden, where you're producing all these eggs and all the produce. You mentioned they go to food pantries. Where, like, what pantries are you guys working with?
We literally have a curbside pantry.
Your own
we
pantry.
We pull it, whether they be eggs or produce, bring them right to the pantry and put them out there. Or it's right next to our curbside library, because we don't have a library in Curtis Bay. Therefore, people don't have internet access, and we provide internet access through FilbertNet there.
Right.
Thanks to our good friends over at Waves. Another great thing we provide for the community. In fact, we are now building Pantry 3.0 because we keep having to grow it. This version is going to have a little refrigerator with it so that we can now take perishables. Because initially we started putting stuff in it, and then people from the area started putting excess canned goods and stuff like that in it. Mm-hmm. And we've gotten countless thank yous. We've also had great organizations such as Izzy's Angels help out. And we've been a great site for when food banks have something that's going to turn soon.
Right.
Or they just get way too much of it and they don't have storage for it. We're a great place for that. We're a great place for, like, let's say they make 100 lunches for homeless folks, but they only hand 70 of them out. Mm-hmm. If you bring them to our curbside pantry, they'll be gone in a couple hours.
Oh, wow.
And as I tell you, the eggs are hotly contested for, especially those delicious duck eggs, which are very prized by bakers.
Right.
The only thing we even sell at the garden is our honey, which helps keeps us sustainable, which I'll talk a lot about and brag.
Excellent.
But that curbside pantry, we got a great grant from the city. I do want to say thank you to our councilwoman, Felicia Porter, and thank you to the mayor's office. Mm-hmm. They helped the 3.0 version be there, and also some great folks from Grow Home, a nonprofit that is teaching vocational training,
right,
which is building it for us and get a lot of young folks involved in the trades.
That's fantastic. And it's good to hear, it's good to hear that Councilwoman Porter is doing great things down in the 10th.
She's helped save the garden. Right. I can't say that enough. Back in 2019, DPW was wanting to use it as a staging ground. And you can Google the garden and find out a little bit of the history there. Mm-hmm. And at the time, Councilman Reisinger and incoming Councilwoman Felicia Porter fought hard for us. And I still remember sitting in that contentious meeting with Mr. Rudy Chow and us coming to some type of agreement.
Right.
And it ended up with the city finally giving us the property. It took 4 years because COVID slowed things down.
Right.
But we finally got the deed after 4 years in October. And we're incredibly thankful once again to our present and former city council folks. And once again, the mayor's office, DPW, and Comptroller Henry have been great.
Great.
So we appreciate them caring about a little organization like ours in the southern tip of Baltimore, which is often neglected.
Excellent. Well, I'll tell you what, it's good to hear these things are going on. I mean, as you experience on your way up here, we're all the way on the complete opposite side of town.
Oh yes.
So these types of stories you rarely seep up here. So it's good for the folks all over the city who are members of the group to be able to hear, some of the positive things that are going on and accomplishments, of the elected officials to help out and to get things like Filbert Street Garden where it needs to be to continue to do the great work that it's doing.
Could I ask you can I tell you a little bit about the origin of the garden and my involvement there?
Absolutely. Can you tell us where folks can learn more about the garden online? Is there a website that I can flash up on the screen for them?
There's filbertstreetgarden.org, which is our website. On top of it, we have a very active Instagram and a very active Facebook. You'll see a lot of cute animal photos, some great gardening stuff. Good to see something ridiculous because at the end of the day, we have a very serious mission, but we try not to take ourselves too seriously and to be jovial over there because we're in a part of Baltimore that's heavily industrial,
right?
With CSX and everything down there. And our space is one that they kind of just decompress in. And the garden started as an initiative that was launched by Jason Reed, who was a school teacher at Curtis Bay Elementary. Mm-hmm. He founded it back in 2011 and got it started. It moved over to Rodette Jones, a great a strong community pillar in Southern Baltimore that was tied in from everything from Greater Baybrook Alliance to the Curtis Bay Association, which is the neighborhood association, to Farm Alliance. Like we were great to have her at that time. And I showed up in a time where she was keeping the garden alive with her and Miss Edith after the founder had left, and it kind of fell in her lap. And I initially got involved as just a place to put my bees.
Right.
I had so much anxiety post-service that I left the Army with, and my bees were my salvation. My bees saved my life.
Excellent.
And I called a bunch of community gardens and places, and a lot didn't return my call. Some hung up right on me, and they're like, well, I'm allergic to bees. But she said, heck yeah, bring them down. And I got involved in the 2015 season. And I've stayed ever since, and it's been 9 years now, going into season 9, and they can't seem to get rid of me over there.
Well, I'll tell you what, it was your post in City Voters about the bees.
Oh yeah,
that got you on my radar, and once I read the post and I shared it out to some other groups and garden groups, and got such a welcome reception to that information. I reached right out to you and asked if you could join us tonight, and we've made some. We've kind of, it's a good segue into the bee aspect of the community garden at this point. So, and I've gotten some questions that were emailed in to me.
Why do you deal with singing insects, and what's wrong with you, sir?
Right. Yeah, the bees. Growing up where I grew up, they were the insects you ran from. But help me love bees. Help you love bees.
Yeah. Well, remember, we deal with honeybees, which are a domesticated bee that we brought over here from Europe about 500 years ago.
Right.
They came over with us European settlers. Native Americans called them the white man's fly. And since then, they spread feral throughout the United States, and they make mass agriculture possible. About 2/3 of what you find in the fruit and veggie section was probably pollinated by a honeybee. Oh, wow. Other things are pollinated by native pollinators, such as nightshades, like tomatoes and potatoes and peppers. So I don't want to overshadow their very important role in the dire situation they're in. But honeybees, they make mass agriculture possible in the United States. And on top of it, a lot of the meat that we eat was probably the fodder for them was pollinated by honeybees. Here in the city, they actually do extremely well. We have the largest bee yard in the city. I think we currently have 35 hives on property right now. About 16 of them belong to the community garden where I manage them. Those are the ones that we harvest honey from and sell Filbert Street honey. We produce about 100 gallons every year, and it's one of the things that help keep us sustainable. In the yard, we also have Huns Honey, which is a for-profit arm of the nonprofit women's shelter, The Well, where we've mentored some of their beekeepers and provide them space to keep bees there. Now, you may ask, what do you even like about beekeeping? One, no matter what's going on in my life, when I start feeling anxious, when it's eating at me, I can go down there and I can feel the warm sun and pop open a hive and feel the in unison ASMR-like buzz of the bees. And I can smell the honey and the beeswax. And I never get calmer in my life. Right. And it makes me a much happier and sweeter person for my wife and children. And they like me a lot more because of it. And on top of it, bees have also taught me patience because, if you're clumsy with them or rush them, you're going to get an immediate punishment for that.
Yeah, and it's that punishment that has always had us running from the bees. So tell us, what do we need to do to not be punished by the bees? How do we be a friend to the bee? And how do you do what you do without getting stung and swelling up like I would if I got stung?
Well, as a domesticated animal, the honeybee is already pretty calm as it is. And remember, they're not aggressive, they're defensive.
Right.
There's certain time of year that are more defensive than others, like in mid-July. If I'm near their hive, their alert radius is a little bit bigger.
Okay.
Because they actually have resources to defend. And they're more eager to defend them because there isn't nectar flowing at the time. But right now, as nectar is beginning to flow and spring's beginning, I can normally walk around inside the bee yard without any problem. I would always advise folks wear a veil because it's not worth taking one in the eye. But I'm in there working in this time of year and making sure that they have a healthy laying queen, and I'm out catching swarms around the area. Honeybees are truly a miracle of nature. They are what's called a eusocial creature, meaning they have a hive mind. And there's a great book called Honeybee Democracy that talks about how they think, because the queen isn't truly in charge. She's just the mother of the hive, and they delegate that job to her. Like, honeybees are this fascinating superorganism. And remember, most bees, because there's over 10,000 species of them, are solitary, and only less than a dozen make honey. The ones we deal with, the Apis mellifera, the western honeybee, they're one of few that even live in a large hive together. Oh, wow. And to even say, what's the difference between a bee and a wasp in that? Bees are wasps that went vegetarian about 150 million years ago. That's when the first pollinating plants showed up, such as conifers, which pollinate by air. And then some plants started offering what's called nectar, which is this great sugary bit of water that the plant lets out and entices these pollinators to come and eat. And on top of the pollen that the plants have that they spread from plant to plant is a great protein source for them. So now that they had the protein source, they didn't need to be carnivorous anymore like their former wasp selves. And if you walk further back enough, ants, termites, wasps, and bees are related. They just went in radically different directions about 150 plus years ago. 50 million years ago, yeah.
As far as their diet's concerned.
Yeah. Right, and how they do things.
Okay.
Like, some of them are eusocial, which is common, and especially in ants, wasps, and bees. But even then, there are solitary versions of even some of those. And the level of eusociality can change from creature to creature. There's such thing as being true eusocial, like a honeybee, and then there's proper terms for lesser degrees of it. But just think, anytime you hear eusocial, it's a hive mind. They make collective decisions.
Excellent. And so, as far as the hives are concerned, and right now, I guess your post was about the fact that we're about to enter a period where they swarm.
Oh yes, and they're already starting to appear. In fact, you'll see a lot of them next week as the temps go up.
All right. So tell us what to look for. What's a swarm? What should we do? How do we protect the bees and make sure that we're not doing anything that's damaging to them during this period of swarm?
Well, basically, some people in the audience might have seen it before. It'll be a big clump of bees, like it can be like a basketball size or more, just hanging on something, whether it is on a branch or a fence or on your porch or on your car or on a park bench. They can be in many different forms of where they choose to land. They're not looking to set up a hive there. What they did was they broke off another hive. They took about 20 to 60% of the hive with them. And the old hive is going to requeen and make a new one. And this swarm is going to land somewhere, send out scouts, find potential new places, because they like warm nooks, like inside a tree or a wall, or even inside where a dead hive was. And those swarms are really in a lot of danger. Because one, parks used to spray them. I don't know if they still do, but I've been getting plenty of park calls from parks. On top of it, you can call 911 because they can connect you to the state beekeepers. I'd go directly to the state beekeepers, because you can find on Maryland State Beekeepers a swarm call number. You call it, and they'll find one of us beekeepers in the area to come get them.
Okay. So if let's just say I located a swarm, and I see this big basketball size thing hanging off of the branch in my backyard, I call the beekeeper.
Oh yes.
Possibly you. And
if you want the best looking one, yeah.
Right. And then, so what do? You come out. What do you do?
Basically, I'll come out, and right now in my truck outside, I have my whole swarm kit set up. I have a ladder ready. I have a pool net if things are high up.
Okay.
I'm trying to stay off ladders as much as I can for safety reasons.
Good idea.
Oh, yeah. On top of it, I have ratchet straps holding the hive body together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to shake them into a hive box or try to get them to march in. because I can get either or most of the time. If you watch on our YouTube, you can see some of my swarm captures. We had a great one outside the USS Constellation back in October. Some hive that either came off a ship or probably from a felled tree, because that's a very late time of the season. They were boned. However, we were able to get them to just march from the anchor into my box, and I was able to just haul them to the yard. It's ideal to do that because they might settle somewhere in the wild, whether it's in somebody's wall or inside a tree in Patterson Park where there's a lot of hives. But most of the time, they don't make it. And the things I would ask you not to do is, one, don't hurt them. On top of it, you may love watching YouTube videos or TikTok videos or Instagram where people stick their hand inside of them because if you're calm, they won't sting you. Don't do that. Please. Call me and ask me to do it. I'll do it for you. Right. But basically call us and we'll come and shake them into a box.
Got it.
And then you just won't have that problem anymore.
Okay.
You save some bees, and at least if you call me, I'll leave a jar of honey for you. Because you just saved that swarm's life, and least I can do is give you a little jar of honey as a thank you.
Understood. Well, I've got one question. I think you answered the first question of the two that I had to ask, or risk losing a friend. The second question is a neighbor, one of my neighbors, has a house where they have a bee issue. They didn't describe the issue.
Issue?
An issue. An issue. Yeah. I see that. See what you did there. We've hired beekeepers several times, had thermal inspection done, and have the siding off, but nobody can locate the beehive. What do you suggest?
There just might be something attractive about your house. Maybe there's something over there planting. I'd have to see the volume of bees, because if there's just a lot of them, I would look what is blooming at the time. Because it might be the plants there. It's not to say that they're
time of year or something that we're
actually one of the cool little tricks that we can do comes from an old trick called beelining, where you shoot an azimuth and use a compass and mark bees as they come, and you can tell what direction the hive is in and the distance, because you'll dot the bee with a small red dot of paint, and it'll go away and come back after it drops off the nectar at the door of the hive. And that time it takes to come back tells you how far it is. If you dot them and you see that one come back in a couple minutes, well, okay, like this tells you about how far they are.
The hive's pretty close.
But I would say it's probably a nectar source in the yard. There might not be a hive there. If they commonly get swarms that land each year, they might just be on what's called a swarm route. Because honeybees are attracted to where honeybees have been, and they can smell themselves. And that's a really unique, ingenious biological trick of theirs, that if they know bees have been here by their scent, it's probably safe for them. That's a pretty wise position. Like the first swarm I caught back in 2015, I caught it on a tree in Annapolis. It was right outside this dude's house, this sailor. And the person that was there before him 4 years ago had bees. Ever since then, bees kept showing up, swarms landing in his yard a few times a year. They can still smell themselves there, and it's still attractive to them. If they actually had a hive removed there, they're just attracted to it. And swarms, if they can find a dead beehive, a dead honeybee hive, they'll move into that pretty quickly, because all the pests have died with the previous bees in there. And it's better to build off that foundation, because the resources to make comb are about 6 times the resources to make honey. Building their house is a lot more expensive calories-wise than actually putting aside honey. And you may ask, why do they even keep honey? It's their way of canning food for winter, because they hibernate clustered in a ball together, and they just need that food source to get through that time of year.
Gotcha. Well, I'll tell you what, I think I've gotten a pretty thorough education on what to do if I run into a bee issue. I know who to call.
Don't panic.
And don't panic. Don't stick your hand. Don't stick your hand in there.
Try to stop sobbing as you call me on the phone.
Right.
And seeing a move is wild because it looks like it's raining bees as they move.
Yeah.
Don't panic. They're not going to sting you. Just don't swat them if they land on you. They're being friendly enough. And you can, once again, if you don't believe me, watch some great YouTube videos of it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I tell you what, the one thing I want to see is getting them to do the march.
You want to see that?
I'd love to see.
Do you want to bring up a YouTube of it?
I won't. I can't right the second. I'd have to have the actual native video. But
there is one right on the Filbert Street Garden YouTube where I set the box because the swarm landed on the ground, which sometimes isn't great news because maybe something's with the queen, maybe her wings damaged or something, and that's why they're on the ground and they followed her there. I literally set the box down. They just marched right into it.
Yeah,
didn't have to shake a single bee.
Yeah,
they're just like, "Woo! Dad's got a box."
Yeah, we're going to a new home.
This is now Bee Daddy. Yeah. That's what they said. And brought them in there, and they were starving. Just gave them food, and they decided to stay. Which it's one of my favorite forms of animal husbandry because if you don't take care of them and they're not happy with you, they'll leave. And there's nothing you can do to stop them.
Right.
They're
when they're ready to go, they're gone.
Yeah. If you're bad at what you do, they leave or they die.
Yeah.
And they got to choose you, my friend.
I hear you. And are there other animals in the garden or on? Is it a farm or?
It's a farm.
It is a farm. Yeah.
Like we started under the title of a community garden, but it really is an active farm.
Yeah.
Like especially with the amount we produce and the fact we have an orchard where we get lots of peaches and pears, and we even along the curbside outside of the fence, we have like a dozen peach trees to where people can come up and just take fruit. You're more than welcome to. Unfortunately, people are picking them when they're raw and rawer because of competition. It's sad because vine ripened fruit is tremendously much better. Yeah. We also have a 4,000 square foot native garden in the back, which is a great way to see a pawpaw tree if you haven't one, or a red bud, or some of those, because we have a lot of native edibles back there that attract a lot of native pollinators. I forget where the question. Oh, yes. Are we a farm? The animals that we have there, it started with the bees because I just wanted a place to set up some hives. And then it moved to, I got a great way we can automate chickens, Ms. Rodette. Can we do that? And brought in the chickens and ducks. And then we made a plan for, I think 3 years in for, hey, let's figure out how to do miniature goats. And we added the first goats, which many of you are familiar with the garden because of Ed, the kidnapped goat back in May of 2020. There's a lot of great footage out there of it.
Yeah, it sounds like a story.
Oh, it is. It's great. We put a synopsis story on our YouTube, and you can see all the Baltimore Brewer articles about it, which I got to give Ms. Firm this, that they came up with the best titles. They had Goat Kidnapped. And then when we got him back in part thanks to the Southern, a BPD. They put in baby goat returned, suspect still on the lam. That's solid reporting there. Thank you to the Baltimore Brew for that.
So he's still on the lam, or did they finally catch the guy?
It was kids that caused some mischief, and we did release some security footage from that night, which kind of showed the kids. And they opened the door, and she's the goat. The mother's looking at him, and they're scared of her.
We got to find something for our kids to do.
And one of the kids has been back to the garden since, and I tend to tease him. We also had a kid some years ago who took a duck from the garden and brought it home. He found a way to climb the fence and climb out. He's been back since, and anytime I see him walking down Filbert Street, I quack at him. And he is affectionately known as Duck Napper. But she's like, please don't call me that, Mr. Charles. No, you earned that name, kid.
Right.
We also have one more. We had a silky chicken, and I think in our second year, we thought it got hawked. It turned out there was a hole in our fence, and it might have walked out there, but definitely one of the kids leaving Curtis Bay Elementary found the silky chicken there, a very fuzzy chicken. We thought it was hawked. I get a call from a mother about a month later, and she was home from work because she was sick, and she heard something rumbling upstairs in her son's closet. and opens it up and sees a silkie. She didn't know what it is because the silkie is a really unique looking bird. And the carpet was destroyed. But he was like feeding her bread, and like you could be really angry about this and nasty with him, but it's just a poor kid in the projects that wanted a pet.
Right.
It's all they wanted. And once again, they've been back since too.
Yeah.
Especially for those couple of years where they liked hanging out with Raven the Silkie. And I think the bird did remember him because anytime he would come in the garden, the bird would run up and demand bread. They can remember up to 100 faces.
Well, I'll tell you what, if someone gives me bread, I'm going to remember him too.
Oh, yes. And some of our other popular animals are Archie and Take the turkeys. They like to be pet. They're extremely friendly. We have our 2 sheep that just got sheared at our Easter event because we have free parties for the community.
Just got sheared?
Oh, yes.
So what did you do with the...
Well, that is being turned into wool. And for some of our donors in that, they're going to get little hats and scarves and stuff like that from it.
Very cool.
It is. And they don't like it, but I'll put it this way. They appreciate it because this time of year on 60-degree days, they're panting from that wool.
I'm sure.
It's so hot. And thank you to Jerry Lackey, our shearer, who's here in the city. Yeah. And you know how hard it is to find a sheep shearer in Baltimore City?
I can't imagine.
I'm just saying, because you don't look around any corner and see sheep all the time.
Right. I haven't passed one of those stores in a while.
Yes, it's... I can say that we have a lot of crazy hijinks, especially because about 2/3 of our animals are rescue livestock. Some of them, like our 2 goats that are very loved, Maverick and Smelliot, or Elliot is his real name, they were abandoned in Patterson Park as babes. 4 goats were born there.
These are rescues.
Oh, yes, and 2 of them are Elliot's child because Elliot wasn't neutered, and animal control... Sharon, the director of animal control over there, told me, hey, he's not neutered and we don't have any place to put him, but a guy in Greektown wants to eat him. It'd be better if you took him. And it took 2 weeks to get that darn appointment. And he wasn't real big at the time. He was still kind of a kid. And I was like, it won't be a big deal. It turned out to be a big deal. And because of that, we have Pepper, Jack, and Bree because typically goats are born as twins. They're all Nigerian dwarf goats, which is why they have thick Nigerian accents and speak both Fulani and Yoruba. On top of that, I'm going to lay them on thick, man.
Oh, my goodness.
On top of it, we have other ones such as Hans and Twinkie in there, which my friend that breeds them, they were rejected by their mother because of some health issues. So we took them in and bottle fed them, and they're just ludicrously friendly. Like all our goats there, for the most part, like to be pet, except Cheese and little Coraline.
Yeah.
Like, who's an ex-cattle goat that was in pretty dire straits herself.
It sounds like you guys are having a good time down there at the Filbert Street Garden.
It is, but a lot of animals is a lot of work.
Yeah.
And we've had to, a guy in Greektown did want to eat them. And, goat is delicious.
Goat's delicious.
And I'll put it this way. I've eaten many a gyro that has sheep or goat in it. So can I really critique? But Greektown lived up to its name that day.
Yeah.
On top of it, we have talked with the city a little bit because we have an acre right next to the property that's around the historic water tower that's reaching its 100th anniversary.
Baltimore City, give them the acre. Who's it owned by? I'll
put it this way. It is owned by the city. It's owned by DPW, but they need to put a new roof on that tower in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
So they're like, come and ask us about having an adopt-a-lot and letting us grade sheep over there. They told us come and bother us in a couple of years after we get the work over there done because there's no sense in us setting that up and then we have to move it for staging and all that. I think it'll be an eventual thing, but we've just got to wait them out and wait for the right time and all that. And once again, despite some of the issues we had with DPW back in 2019 and trying to find a solution, they were always very affable. We found a great solution together. And on top of it, I can say that they've been our oldest friend because, since the beginning, we were an adopt-a-lot, and they let us come on into that land.
Yeah.
And we made it into something nice, but they've always been a great friend.
Good to hear. Two more questions. Number one, are there opportunities for visitors of the Filbert Street Garden? Let's say if I'm a summer camp and I have kids and things like that, do you guys do those types of things?
We do. In fact, we have our porta potty thanks to our lovely donor this year. And right now we're building a large building thanks to a Maryland grant, which is going to have 2 ADA compliant bathrooms.
Mm-hmm.
I say this because we used to have to turn groups away because it was like, hey, can you do your field trip? But, we don't have a bathroom here.
Right.
So a significant number of folks had to be turned away. And I'll say this about all the great organizations that have donated to the garden over the years. Everybody wants to pay for the goat barn. Everybody wants to pay for the chicken habitat.
Right.
Everybody wants to pay for the new raised beds. Nobody wants to pay for the bathroom, the most critical piece of infrastructure there is. We should put plaques on those damn things, really.
Well, yeah. And we can make that appeal right here in City Voters Live. Like, give it. Like, we should start a giving campaign for the bathrooms. You already got it.
Well, we already got it.
Okay.
Thanks to Bernie funding.
Okay.
Thanks to now Comptroller Learman.
Okay.
And
shout out to Brooke.
Yes, and Delegate Robin Lewis.
Okay.
Which were pivotal in getting us half the funds for that building.
Yeah.
It's going to have hexagon-shaped windows, be powered by solar, have a rain collection system, have a kitchen where we can educate the public on everything from canning to harvesting honey.
Excellent.
And it has those 2 ADA compliant bathrooms because porta potty is great, but it's gross.
Yeah.
And we just
Somebody's got to clean it.
We just have too many people now.
Yeah.
Good kind of problem, I reckon.
Hey, you're getting the bathroom, right?
Yeah,
but you can worry about everything else later.
The main point is, if you contact the garden, we'll set a time for your youth group or your school or whatever organization you're part of. On top of it, we started a program in 2020 calling the Stewards. Yeah, we started a program in 2020 called the Stewards Program. The Stewards are kids from the neighborhood, which we employ between the ages of 15 to 20.
Mm-hmm.
We want to keep kids away from MIC jobs and try to get them some good workforce development.
All right.
And they do everything from helping us with our animal care, all the way to helping us harvest and put stuff at the curbside, knocking out odd jobs and using some basic tools for maintenance.
Yeah.
Everything from painting tables to maybe cutting off a rotten board from one and putting a new board in there.
Now, do you guys do anything with like the Mayor's Office of Employment Development as far as like the Youth Works program or anything like that? We have not. Okay.
I know that has been something with our partner that they've wanted to do.
Sure.
Over at the good folks at Grow Home, which is run by Mike Dorsey.
Mm-hmm.
They are working with City of Refuge in South Baltimore and working a great vocational setup they call the Baybrook Builders. They build a lot of our infrastructure in the garden. And on top of it, veterans groups such as Mission Continues have been very vital.
Yeah.
It's hard to point to a piece of infrastructure that they didn't have a hand in somewhat.
Right.
United Way has been incredibly helpful. They help pay for the goat pen fencing. Right now, the new class of builders is they just kind of did the entry level, which is building some new goat furniture because goats are a mountain animal that want to climb and they're very bored in an area if they don't. They built a nice goat tower for me. They built some great hive stands because we're moving the bee yard over to the other side of the garden.
Very nice.
After I've been there for 9 years, it's sad to see it go, but we can move it to a slightly larger space that has a concrete pad, and we can turn that space into great area for additional production.
Excellent.
I know my fellow coordinator and master gardener, Brittany, is eyeing that land hungrily going, when you move it, Charles, it's going to be great.
Right.
Because it'll be a great place to like plant blueberries and some of the stuff we just haven't had a lot of room for.
Right.
And remember, in every urban agriculture area, space is always your biggest challenge.
Sure.
It is always your biggest challenge. And she's found great ways to maximize it. And we're even looking toward great projects in the future, but this is the year for infrastructure. There's over $450,000 of infrastructure going in this year.
Oh man, that's amazing.
That building where next week the paths are going to go in, thanks to our good folks at Cooper Paving, which gave us a great deal.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be putting in all those, and they're going to be great ADA compliant pathways, because we find for a lot of special needs folks, it's a challenge to do any type of community gardening. Nothing's built for you. So we're both putting in paths, and we're going to have some taller raised beds for them as well. On top of it, we're going to be moving the chicken habitat over and having chicken habitat 3.0, which has the improvements off of the old one. Great ways of keeping wild birds out of it, down to some solar-powered fans, which keep great ventilation. We're also moving to the Rolls-Royce of coops, which are the over-easy coops, which is a great name. It's a solid pun. We are moving. We're moving towards looking at building a hydroponics building. Right at the site of the old coop, and we're kind of writing that grant right now. Please, USDA, please, Daddy.
They'll come through for you.
I hope so, but there's a lot of people that need it too. I'll put it that way. There's a
lot of competition.
We argue that we're a deserving organization, but there's a lot of organizations that do just as good work as us, not more. So it's a steady competition between a lot of us.
I hear you.
And I don't mean to demean anybody's effort. On top of it, we're looking toward expanding the stewards a little bit, because normally it used to be from May to November 1st, but we're kind of eyeing, could we start April 1st and bring it all the way to December 1st? Right. Because our gardening seasons are just longer now. Right. That's partly because it's warmer now, thanks to climate change, which has made beekeeping quite unpredictable. Because agriculture was already dicey. And you're already praying that you don't have a frost on a certain day or that conditions are good. And those conditions have to line up. Now we added a whole bunch of additional factors that now make it even more of a dice roll. So hard years to come.
Got it. So the third of my last two questions, is there anything that you want the folks that'll view this episode to know that's a pressing need of the garden, and you've gone through quite a bit of what is coming down the pike, so it sounds like your wish list is pretty extensive already. But is there any pressing issues for the garden or the community at large that you want you want on the radar of folks that will be watching this?
Well, it's part of our transition, because we started out as a community garden that was seasonal and became a community garden that was year-round, because once you introduce animals, you close that door. Right. We do still kind of have an off-season where we don't have stewards, but our stewards also maintain the open hours for the garden, because we're a de facto public park. There are 5 days a week where for 4 to 5 hours a day we're open, and anybody in the public can come. Those times will be posted as soon as our stewards begin, which I think is going to be either the middle of this month or May to first, depending on funding. But part of that transition to being a urban agro-tourism space and public park is that we have to pay staff. Like, I'll always be a perpetual volunteer because I do well, but I can't expect to have somebody with the expertise of a master gardener and expect them for 10 to 20 hours a week and not pay them. I can't expect somebody that is going to help us write grants for 10 hours a week or handle community relations. If you pay peanuts, you get elephants. And part of that is writing grants to get that pay, because everybody wants to pay for capital infrastructure, but actually paying professionals, and I don't even mean full-time. Like we pay our I keep calling it builders. Sorry, because the program was initially builder staffing it. We pay our stewards $15 an hour, and we tend to pay our coordinators for a little bit of hours that they have, $20. Like I'm just trying to get like 40 hours a week between 3 coordinators for the coordinators, and trying to get I think 30 hours a week among my stewards. Like sometimes we're able to get the funding, especially for the stewards part, but we're having to fly it year by year and build this plane as we're flying it.
Right.
And being able to talk to bigger donor organizations or stuff along those lines about, hey, I want to look toward payroll for 2025 instead of really struggling for 2024.
Yeah.
That's one of our hopes with the USDA grant. We've talked to some other great organizations which have eyed us. But it's a struggle for that big continuity. And every organization has to make its transition between being this all volunteer thing,
right,
and then being it where we have some paid staff and professionals.
Right.
And that's a difficult one to make.
It's a tough transition. It is.
And it means a whole new class of donor. But if you're asking what can the average person do? Well, this Sunday, we need volunteers. Come on down. It'll be a nice sunny day. Bring boots. I think we start about noon. Feel free to check our Instagram if I'm a liar. But we have an open volunteer call where folks can come and help us move some dirt, pull a few weeds. So the kids can pet some goats and throw some corn to the chickens. It's a great place for families to come down. We do have some tasks that we need to knock out there. On top of it, if folks are feeling generous. Let me keep
you there for just 1 second. Around how many volunteers are you looking for?
Send what you got to me. I'll put it that way. Okay. Whether 5 show up or 40, we got stuff for them. Okay. I promise you.
Okay.
Because right now we got a little bit of dirt and compost to move.
Okay. And I'll make an exciting announcement that Baltimore City Voters now has a volunteer organizing platform that we're going to be releasing for causes like yours.
Oh, shucks.
Right. So what we'll do is we'll make you our first test case this week, and we'll put your opportunity for Sunday. I'll get the details from you offline here, and we'll put that out onto the city voters with the episode as far as at large, and we'll try to get you those 40 souls, to come down this Sunday. And make sure the community garden has everything that it needs.
We appreciate that. Yeah. And frankly, it really does help. And once again, it's a great place for families. Bring the kids down. Sometimes we got empty hive boxes for them to paint or something along those lines, or maybe they can just follow around the animals and feed chickens during that time and hang out. Yeah. It's a great place to be, especially this time of year.
Of course.
On top of it, if you're feeling generous in donating, we have a donating link right on on our webpage, filbertstreetgarden.org. We also have a Patreon. We always love donations if somebody can give $10 a month for a year or two and stuff like that, because that helps us determine what we can meet for our budget for feed and for bedding. Those are always our biggest chief concerns. Because chicken feed is expensive, but we throw a significant amount at it a year. The goats themselves are probably at least $1,200 to feed each year.
Right.
There's also vet care and other stuff that comes in now and then. But it's mostly for some of our geriatric animals at this point. Some of them have been with us for so long. And my 9-year tenure, there's still a few of them that are with us. I think Filbert the goose will outlast everybody. He's our large white goose there who is extremely friendly. You should try to pet him. I double dog dare you.
Yeah.
No, him and his girlfriend Gwen. They can easily live up to 20 years.
Oh,
so he'll outlast every bird, every goat. And the gardeners hate when I remind them sometimes, but some of you gardeners, they're going to outlast. Hopefully, I'm about to turn 40. Hopefully he doesn't outlast me.
Yeah. No, Filbert the goose will be long gone before your time is done there. I hope.
I don't know. Maybe I might just fall off a ladder one of these days, or
stay off the ladders.
Or I get or the great duck insurrection will pick up and they'll just take me out, man. It's what it is.
I can feel your general liability premiums going up now. The more you talk about
they can, and insurance is another exciting topic that I could bore you with. I'll put it this way. Should any of you not be able to get to sleep and you're really struggling, just call me up and ask me about the liability insurance challenges for a community garden and urban agrotourism space, and you'll be to sleep in minutes. I promise you'll just be just out. Like it's a very dry subject. I appreciate our treasurer, Colonel Collier Slade, being able to tackle that and wrestle with it year after year. Being a treasurer is the most thankless job at every organization. I'll put it that way. Like being the president of any organization is especially that way. I'll just put it this way. Any club where somebody wants the job and just doesn't do it out of duty, they probably shouldn't have it. Like it's kind of like an HOA board. Anybody who wants that job probably shouldn't have it. You do it out of the sense of duty, and hopefully everybody takes their turn.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, like I said, thank you so much for taking the time to come out here, all the way up here to this side of town, to this little, silly studio that we have up here, and spending time on this crazy show. But I hope everyone's learned as much as I have tonight about the Filbert Street Garden, and that they'll make a commitment to doing whatever you can to assist this great, community gym out there in South Baltimore and the Curtis Bay area. We'll keep, this episode's going to be in the group. I'll make sure all your YouTube links, get there, because I'm dying to see that march that you're talking about. You got to point that link out to me specifically. Yes. But like I said, what I'll do is I'll create that opportunity for to make this the first of hopefully a lasting relationship between your garden and Baltimore City voters. The platform is always open to you. If I miss another one of your posts, feel free to DM me. I see a lot, get a lot of spam in that group.
It's been a popular post for about 7 years running. Post. It's been picked up by the Baltimore Sun before, by the Washington Post. Once again, we really appreciate people echoing it. Right. And we really appreciate City Voters Group about it, because all y'all patrons have been great about sending out shares of it, and I get so many calls because of it that I can actually pass them to other beekeepers in the area. Yeah. And we can all respond to it pretty quickly.
At last check off of the City Voters Group, there were 35 shares come off that one post, which is probably the most shares of any post that I've seen in quite a while. So yeah, it is a popular subject, and it looks like you got a lot of support from at least the folks that pay attention to this group. And to the extent that we as the admin team can assist with making sure that information continues to disseminate and continues to make you so busy and pass it off.
And thank you for moderating that group, because speaking of thankless jobs, I'll put it this way: there's a lot of people that love just tormenting moderators instead of spending their time learning to breathe through their nose.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm not allowed to talk about members. But
I know there's five off the top of your head of
oh my goodness. Well, I tell you what, it's been an exercise in understanding the human dynamic, and I'll just leave it there, for now. But they still, as long as they like Charles the Beekeeper, I'll be just fine. And trust me, I don't take any of it too seriously. So
try not to. There's no point in it.
You can't.
This is a mad world we live in, and
right. Yeah.
There's so many heartaches and heartbreaking things here in Baltimore City that sometimes just seeing a picture on the news of a goat wearing a fedora. That came from our friend the Arabers over at Carlsbad Stables.
Right.
You can thank them for that. We got a million calls over that. We're was it your goats? Because there's not many of them around the city, my friend. Not many. We were the usual suspects for that.
Well, I want to thank all the viewers tonight, all the commenters. I'm sure this, just like your post, is probably going to get a lot of people interested, a lot of traction, and I'm looking forward to working with you on that volunteer opportunity this weekend.
I'm sure all 4 viewers watching are so excited.
The great thing is so many people watching, they just won't click in to register that they're watching. It's like this whole voyeurism thing that people love to do. And I'll go to Reddit and I'll see people talking about all my shows, but they won't give us the view by clicking in.
I'll put it this way, friend. You just need to move to TikTok. Narrow attention spans.
Yeah.
Like us
20-second about chunks.
No, you sure that 15. And it can't be said in 15 seconds. Maybe it's not worth hearing at all.
Good stuff. All right, Charles, thank you so much. And to everyone out there in Baltimore City, be safe, Baltimore.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day.
Accident